let me tell you a story. Good morning, Glue Troopers. You may recall that yesterday or last night I was talking about it and knew if I knew that there had been a second pattern made for the Aurora Godzilla model. And I was struggling with it because it's like I thought there was, or maybe I only thought there was. So I went back to one of the greatest resources there is. That's the Aurora Monster Scenes book by Dennis Prince and Andy Yanchus. And I did know that Aurora had at least wanted to work on a second Godzilla because Andy mentions this in the book. Now, I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey here, and it's a very impressive story, and it's going to dovetail very much with last night's episode. Now, you guys, of course, probably are well aware that Aurora hit pay dirt when they did their Frankenstein and started their monster series with the Wolfman and Dracula and so on. And, of course, Godzilla was a huge seller, so was King Kong. Well, then they ran into trouble in, I think it was 71, when they did their monster scenes. And, of course, they did the Victim in the Cage and Dr. Deadly and all that, and then there was the outrage of the mothers, and this is when Nabisco owned Aurora, so all heck broke loose and turned into a real disaster for them, and they backed away from that. But then towards the end they tried the monsters of the movies. Now, since they knew the monster scenes had sold well and their dinosaur scenes, prehistoric models are still doing quite well. So they're like, okay, let's move back into the monster scene, but we're going to do it in a way that's not going to get us in trouble. So they came up with monsters of the movies. And again, rereading that chapter last night, Andy talks about how they were forced to try to repurpose as much as possible. So they rebranded things and they put a lot of work into it, but they weren't getting a lot of support from the upstairs. And they needed to expand the line also. And Andy had made a list, which is in the book, of monsters and science fiction stuff that they were going to try to add to the line. Now, some of it was repurposing existing stuff, and some of it was brand new. One of the things that was on that list was they wanted to do a new Godzilla. That's also where the Metaluna mutant came from. So if you guys are interested in this, I really highly recommend this book. I genuinely do. It's a first-hand account from the guys who were there. And anyway, so what happens is, again, Dave Cockrum does a bunch of the artwork. Ray Myers cuts some, makes some patterns, and the monsters of the movies doesn't last very long before they're not getting the support they need, and the key people are starting to leave, and eventually including Andy. And I think it only went about a year or so, and then Nabisco got rid of Chuck Diker, who was running the company, and then they got rid of the company, and of course then everything goes to Monogram. Then there's the train derailment up in Albany, and so on and so forth. And so all of this plays into where I'm going. Now, I know for a lot of you guys this is rehash, but here's where it really starts to get interesting. A lot of the patterns ended up in vaults, but some of them also ended up in private collections. And as over time, things got parted out. And there were auctions held by HMS, which had done a lot of the contract work for Aurora. And people were able to pick up some of the patterns. Well, the Metaluna pattern was picked up by an enthusiast, and the Godzilla, the second Godzilla pattern, was picked up by a former employee of Aurora. And about, I think it was around 20 years ago that the stuff went up for auction. Well, anyway, the gentleman who got the Metaluna had it for a while, and eventually, some time back, he decided, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or so, he decided to go through and remember what I said last night about I can't believe somebody would spend the money to cut molds just to make some, but he did. He made the financial commitment to have real, honest-to-God steel molds made. And that's why he's able to sell some of these styrene kits today. And then about 10, 11 years ago, he managed to make contact with the Aurora employee who had the second Godzilla pattern, and wash, rinse, repeat. So these kits that are for sale on eBay of the giant monster are real honest-to-God styrene kits. Color me impressed. Very impressed. And the financial commitment alone just to have the molds cut and then is incredible. And of course, not very many of the kits were shot, so that's one reason they're so expensive. If this is your thing, this might be an opportunity for you guys to pick up something that's, I don't know how long he'll be doing this, but I'm still kind of a little floored. I mean, that is a heck of a commitment. That's somebody who really put their money where their hobby is, and I salute you, sir. If you have any interest in that kind of thing, this is your opportunity. I would recommend you probably take advantage of it. And enough said about that. Anyway, my wife, for Valentine's Day, she's ordered me a couple of gifts, and one of them is this nice Tamiya sprue cutter, because you guys remember Zippy here used his other sprue cutter to cut some things that weren't sprue, and now they're all messed up. And these will not be used to cut wire or anything other than sprue. But now I have myself, and I heard great things about the Tamiya ones. I heard the God's hands were better, but this was my logic, and I'm by no means passing judgment on anybody else. But the God's hands ran about $55. These were a little over half that, and I just thought this was all I needed. And you know the old saying, the best is the enemy of good enough, which is the excuse I tell myself whenever I get cheap. But still, these, I heard wonderful things about the Tamiya sprue cutter, so I'm sure they'll do me fine. And other than that, as you can probably tell by the way I'm bundled up, it's a little crisp out here today, so I need to warm things up. Hopefully I'll get a little bit of modeling done. I'd like to get over to the hobby shop. And that's really about all I got for this morning. I thought you guys would enjoy that little story. I was able to get that information through, you know, the internet. And once again, want to thank everybody for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and model on.